Hey everybody. Right about the end of March 2017, we had just completed our first Shemitah year. And some people in the group, friends who like Bait to Fill Publishing, asked me to put together just a little talk that I thought I would do unlisted and kind of privately for the members of that group about our Shemitah experience. So I made a video. It's unscripted. It's a little bit crude. It's called our Shemitah Experience. And I put it in that group. And after a while, people watched it and they said, you know, you should really make this public. So more people who watched your video, the Forgotten or Ignored commandment, and became convicted to keep the Shemitah, they need to see you talking about your blessings that you received in the Shemitah year, because it was one of the best years of our lives. So I thought I'd edit it up, clean it up a little bit. It's all unscripted. It's me just pretty much sitting here talking for about a half an hour about how great the Shemitah was. So what follows is our Shemitah experience, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey, Shabbat Shalom everybody. I'm making this video just for the group Friends Who Like Bait to Fill Publishing. This is by request, Bill Carmichael. Thanks for founding this group, Bill. He wanted me to come in here and talk a little bit about my experience with the Shemitah. So this video isn't scripted. I don't have any notes here. I don't have any script. I'm just going to kind of wing it here. So shalom to everyone who's here. Thanks for being part of it. He asked me to write something, and I typed slow as cold molasses, but I talk real easy. So I'm going to come in here and just talk a little bit to you tonight about the Shemitah. When we first realized that we needed to keep the Shemitah was probably about a year before it started. We knew it was coming up, and we knew that they had found the cycle back. We did a lot of research into that because we just, didn't want to just pick a year and keep it. You just don't want to say, hey, I think I'm going to keep the Sabbath this week on a Wednesday. It doesn't work like that. You need to be in the Creator cycle. There's a book that's out there. I think I've shown it before. It's Joseph Dumon's book, Remembering the Sabbatical Years of 2016. This is a really good book, and he talks about how they rediscovered the Shemitah cycle. If you want to get this book, you can get it on Amazon. I think you can buy it from his website, sightedmoon.com. I don't think it's for free anywhere. I think it should be, but it's not. But it's a really good book. And there's been 2 or 3 other witnesses that have corroborated Joseph's book. So we didn't just go, just buy this, but this was like a starting point. We don't agree with everything this man teaches, but we agree with everything he was teaching on the Shemitah. So, you gotta pick a little bit here and there. I don't expect everyone to agree with me on everything I talk about. You should hold up everything I say to the word as well. That's why I don't like to give my opinion a whole lot. I just like to give the word, because my opinion doesn't mean anything. So anyway, we went by that book. They rediscovered the Shemitah cycle. And once we were convinced of that, after finding other witnesses, then we were like, okay, we need to start keeping this. But it was still a year out. So we were talking about it, figuring what we were going to do. My son Mitchell and his wife, they have a very successful business, but they live in town. They have a small house. They have a small lot, live in town. They're very happy, but they have a lot more money than they have time, and they don't have room to grow a garden. My wife and I have a lot more time than we have money, and we have 5 acres out here in the country, and we have room for a very large garden, so that's what we do. Helps us on our food. Plus we don't like all the GMO stuff. We don't like all the pesticides. So everything we put out there on the garden, we try to get heirloom seeds that are non-GMO, and we can stuff. We talked about different methods of food preservation, and we found dehydrating, which is wonderful. I also put that in the book for anyone who got the Shemitah book that we did, the Shemitah and how we prepared for it. Talk about that. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. I got a couple things I want to show y'all. But anyway, once we found out that we needed to keep the Shemitah, we had about a year before we had to start preparing for it. So we did a lot of talking, and then once the year started, we started storing things up that we knew we were going to use that you can't buy because they're grown on the land. So let me talk about that briefly. Some people think they can wiggle out of it, say, well, I live in town, I don't have a garden, so I don't have any land to rest, so I don't need to worry about that. I'll just get my stuff at the grocery store. That's not what it's about. You have to let all the land rest. Just because you're contributing to somebody working the land if you're buying food. So you've got to put up all the food that is grown on the land. Now you can buy meat. You can buy, chicken and beef and fish, stuff like that. Obviously the fish are in the sea, but those things don't grow anything on the land. They just eat off the land, but that's fine for us to eat those animals. You can buy milk, you can buy yogurt, you can buy cheese for the most part. Things like that. You can buy salt. Salt is mined. It isn't grown. You can't buy pepper because pepper is grown. It's peppercorn seeds, right? That you grind them down in your peppercorn grinder. So this sounds a little bit picky, and people say, I don't know if I really want to get that picky. Well, my first Torah teacher said, how small can a sin be and not be considered a sin? And he was right. So if you're going to obey, you might as well do it to the best of your ability, and that's what we did. Now, I'm not going to lie to you that when we first started to prepare for this and we were first talking about it, sometimes people have a hard time preparing for a week out. And, shopping for a week, and oh, I forgot that, and we didn't get milk, and we forgot butter and spaghetti noodles. You got to go back to the store and get it. Now we're talking about going a whole year. So what we did for quite a few months, we were keeping track of everything we ate, at first on a daily basis, then on a weekly basis, and figuring out kind of after a few months, okay, how much did we eat of this, and how much did we eat of that? And certain things you can put up that'll last a while, certain things no, like flour won't last for years and years, but you can put up flour and it'll last a year. Certain things we grew and we dehydrated. Certain things, you can, can pickles, you can can jelly, and that's fine and dandy. But if you want to put up some other things, canning may not be the best way to go. Like say if you want to can cabbage. Well, not everybody likes sauerkraut. My son and I love it, and we can eat it by the gallon. My wife can't stand it. She likes, raw cabbage, like in cabbage form, and we all like coleslaw, I think. So we dehydrated cabbage. This is shredded cabbage. I don't know how well you can see that. It's light like paper. It's a half-gallon jar. That's probably almost one head in there, believe it or not. And when you rehydrate it, when you soak it in water, it comes back. You literally cannot tell the difference if I shred fresh cabbage and lay it there, and if I take some of this and rehydrate it and lay it there and say, okay, which one is which? You won't be able to tell because it is that close. It is that crisp. So what I did, I put 17 heads of cabbage in one 5-gallon bucket. It all fit, and I could lift it with my little finger. And what we do is we put these little things in there that help us. We put them in the jars. You can see them in the top of this jar. We put in oxygen absorbers. I don't know how well you can see that in there. Oxygen absorbers and desiccants. Oxygen absorbers takes all the oxygen out so the bacteria and the mold can't grow. And these are a one-time shot. After you open the jar, they're gone. You can't use them anymore. The desiccants, sometimes they make some with different things that comes in your electronics, and I don't like to use that stuff. These are natural desiccants. They have clay inside of there. So these absorb any moisture. So if you don't get all the moisture out, say for example, these are pear slices from our pear tree. Sliced on the mandolin slicer, put them on the dehydrator. They're like chips. They're delicious. You can see the stuff in there on the top of there. These things, if there was any water you didn't get, it would be soaked up in the clay desiccant. The oxygen absorber takes all the oxygen out. It'll suck the top down in there. There's no heating up. There's no anything. Can keep for up to 30 years if it's stored right. That's pretty great. So, let's see, I wanted to talk about those two things. And these things, you can put them back into your dehydrator and use them over and over and over again. They recharge is what you call them. You just leave them in overnight and just dehydrate the water out of them. And you put them back in the jars. I got one around here somewhere with 100 of them in there. And then you can use those year after year after year. So it was kind of an investment at first. We bought a couple different dehydrators. We got an Excalibur dehydrator, and we got a Nesco dehydrator. The Excalibur is a more expensive one. It's the better one. We got kind of the smaller one, but it was just the two of us. So it worked very well, and I liked it because it was square. And the Nesco, they're different trays you can stack, and they're round, so it's a little bit harder to fit some things on there. A video you can watch is one of the earliest videos we did on the channel is about dehydrating okra. It's got like the little blue thumbnail on there. I think it's called Living a Set Apart Life. We're not really sure what we're going to do with those yet. But watch that, and that's an instructional on how we dehydrated okra and put the spices on there. Man, is that good. People have been telling me I need to sell that. I got too much to do to worry about making that to sell it. But it is really, really good, and it doesn't taste slimy or anything. So watch that video if you want to learn how to dehydrate stuff, because that's imperative for the Shemitah, because you can do so much stuff. Look at this. There are about 60 sliced and dehydrated green peppers, and you see how nice and green that is? When you put them in water, they come right back, almost like fresh. Not quite like fresh. They don't plump up quite as big, but when you're putting them, you know, in salads or you're cooking with them, you can't tell the difference. This jar is almost empty, but this here is orange slices. Hard and crunchy, it's like candy. It's really good. And then here, there's probably about 30 to 40 tomatoes in here, tomato slices. These rehydrate really well. You can put them in sandwiches. I just eat them plain. Instead of potato chips, I eat tomato chips. They're delicious. This, you're probably not going to be able to see this very well. This is blackberries. In this jar is 3 1-gallon freezer bags. I mean, stuffed packed full of big Washita blackberries. And they're hard, they're like little pebbles, but they'll rehydrate. And what's good about these, say if you get your own milk, you get your own cream, and you can buy that during the Shemitah, and if you want to make ice cream, you can take these and you can put these like in a food processor or like in a coffee grinder. Say if you want to make espresso, turn this into dust and mix this in with your ice cream. Oh, I'm here to tell you. Do the same thing with apples. We have apple trees and have these all prepared. See, they're all sliced. I don't know where you can see that. They're all sliced. Like say if you wanted to stuff a turkey. And we make a very old traditional German turkey stuffing with apples and raisins and cinnamon and sugar and stuff the turkey with that. I love bread stuffing too. But I mean, it's already done. They're already peeled. They're already sliced. You just have to rehydrate them overnight. So all that work is done. You just throw them in a container in the refrigerator. Bang, you're done. You don't have to pick them. You don't have to clean them. You don't have to slice them. I mean, this makes food prep so easy. So it was a little daunting, number one, because we never did it before. We didn't really know what to expect. And until you have actually kept a Shemitah, you really don't know what to expect from it. You really don't. There's some psychological things like when you walk through the store and you see that and you say, oh, I want to have that, but I can't have it. And then that kind of goes away after a while. And then you focus on what you can eat. And we didn't lack for anything. We got so much healthier. I was a horrible eater before the Shemitah. My wife, she's always been a health food nut. You know, she's always working out. She's, you know, eating pine cones and twigs. Not really, but you know what I mean. She's a really good eater. She's always ate really good, and she's always been trying to get me. I drank two 2-liter bottles of diet soda every day for about 20 years. I poured that poison and that aspartame into me for 20 years. I haven't had any in a year and a half. I drink water. I drink ice water all day. Now I have a cup of coffee in the morning. We had to stock up coffee too for the Shemitah, and we barely made it. If it wasn't for Mitch helping us out a little bit, we'd have been about 2 weeks too short, and then that would have been bad. But anyway, I just drink ice water anyway. I don't even drink juice. There's nothing better than cold ice water, and we have a very good clear well here. The Father blessed us with that. And so coffee in the morning and ice water the rest of the day, and I'm just fine. So I was already off the Diet Coke kick before the Shemitah started. What was getting me was combos and Pringles and Oreos and some stuff like that. And you know, because you get busy, you're doing things. You know, if you're doing yard work, or if I'm, you know, working and writing or whatever on the computer and dealing with different things. You know, face it, we get in a hurry. It's easy just to grab something real quick. It's easy to grab a TV dinner. It may not be that good for you. To stop off and get, you know, some burgers or something, and that's not the best for you. So what Shemitah helped me do, anyway, it helped me eat very well, and it got me so healthy. There were so many blessings in the Shemitah year. Let me back up a little bit. The Father tells us He will give us a double portion, and He certainly does. Let me tell you, our fruit trees, we've been here 12 years, spent 12 summers here. 2 summers ago when we were preparing for the Shemitah, when He promises a double portion, our fruit trees have never had that kind of fruit on them, ever. Our peach tree was so loaded, it was an old tree, that it gave us all these peaches, and it was so loaded that it actually shattered the tree and broke. That was sad, but we got new ones planted out there anyway. But they were so full of fruit, we have never seen them. So we were just, that's free, right? And we don't spray it with chemicals or anything. So we're just, slicing and dehydrating and storing these things up. And last year during the Shemitah, almost no fruit. The trees were resting. They were devoid of fruit. And we didn't get a late frost to kill any of it. It was just very strange looking around going, what is going on? None of these trees have any fruit on them. It's like they were resting too. And also another small miracle, I don't know if any of y'all, some of you know about fire ants. Well, fire ants are quite the plague, and they are very, very bad here in western Arkansas. And they're always in the house, they're always in the dog food, even though we try picking up. We keep a very neat house, and you're always vacuuming because they're always in everything. They get in your food somehow, you end up throwing stuff away. If you can't even, make a cup of a sweet tea and leave it on the counter and come back in 10 minutes, and there's ants all over that cup. This past year during the Shemitah was the only year that we have lived here in 12 years that we did not have a single fire ant in any of our food. And the fire ant hills were probably worse outside than we ever saw. There were just as many ant hills as ever. None were in the house. And we don't spray chemicals. There were nothing. We didn't do anything different. And there were no ants. There were no ants in any of our food. I used to raise, chickens and quail and pheasants and turkeys and guineas and all that stuff here. So we have a lot of mice, and we have a lot of pack rats. They're not like, sewer rats, but they're, some people know what they are. They're always out in the woods, and they just, they'll fill up your shed with stuff. That's why they call them pack rats. But, you get mice in the house, and they'll get in your food. We didn't have a single mouse. We had nothing. It's like the Father just moved all that out of our house, and we didn't lose one single food item. We made it with every single thing we had. And now that we're 3 days out of the Shemitah, there's not really any of that old stuff I really want to go back to. We got a couple things. I really wanted to get some different, kinds of meats and cheeses that have some spices in it. We did that, but for the most part, I'm going to keep eating the way I have been. My diabetes about went away. My blood pressure went down to, not normal yet, but it went very low. I lost a whole bunch of weight. The blessings we were getting in the Shemitah. The Shemitah is also a release of debts, and this is not for everybody. This is not, if you're in covenant, and if somebody, you don't have to forgive the debts of somebody who is not Yisrael. The Creator's not going to. So it's a very cleansing thing. It's not just financial debt. And it's not like getting out of your mortgage. That's not what it's about. But it's releasing some financial debt to somebody in your brother. If you lent them some money, and if they're having a hard time, you want to just forgive that and let that go, and the Father's going to bless you. But it's also about forgiving the sins of other people. If somebody has sinned against you, it's very cleansing. Even if that person hasn't asked you for forgiveness, doesn't matter. We're supposed to forgive that person if they're a brother, if they're walking in Torah. And I saw that with somebody in my family that I'm close to that had issues going back 40 years. And those debts, those transgressions, those sins against that person were forgiven, and it was so cleansing. And I praise the Father for that, because it's something that there was so much closure that we got during the Shemitah. And sometimes, that saying, you got to do the deed to see the need. Well, that was it for the Shemitah. We really didn't know how wonderful it was going to be until we kept it. And when we got to the end of it, it wasn't like, oh, this thing is almost over, we're so happy. No, it wasn't that at all. We were happy it was over to say we did it, but we were almost sad to see it end. Because number one, we saved a lot of money. We had stocked up all that food, and it was so easy to prepare meals. And instead of having to buy all, you know how much produce costs. You get sticker shock. You go in the grocery store and you see how much it is for a sack of, apples or oranges or something. Good grief, they get a lot of money for that. Well, instead of buying hamburgers, I was buying steak. I'm going to tell you, Scott was buying steak because I could afford it. And we were still, our grocery bill wasn't an eighth of what it was, because we had stocked up and we had saved. And we really, outside of some things like coffee and flour and a certain thing, we probably could have went another year. We overkilled it. We way overestimated what we had to put up for the Shemitah. It was such a blessing. And it was probably the biggest thrill, wondering how many people have kept a Shemitah for a whole year in this part of the world, at least where we are on this soil. Has it ever been done? And this is not to pat ourselves on the back. That's not what I'm doing at all, because it feels good to be obedient. You feel good when you keep Passover and unleavened bread, and you keep all the feasts, because that's what the Father told us to do. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but what I'm saying is it feels good to obey, and it feels good to be walking in covenant and trying to do everything that the Creator said that He wants us to do if we are to be regarded as His people. So to get to the end of the Shemitah saying, we did it, Father. And you know what? We cannot wait for the next one. Because it was so much fun. It was an adventure. You know, we've always been the adventurous types. We moved cross country twice, and that's kind of a risk to pick up roots and leave everybody you know and leave all your friends and move all the way across the country and do that. And that's exciting, but we're always up for adventures and new things. And even though it sounds kind of strange to repair everything and live for an entire year on just what you've put up, save for, you know, butter and meat and milk and some cheese and stuff, it was wonderful. It was such a blessing to be able to obey. And I know it seems daunting. I'm not going to lie to you, because it seemed daunting to us, but that was just for the preparation. Once the Shemitah started, it was like, whew, vacation. Easy to cook, saving money. What an experience. So from the time I'm making this video, like I said in the other one, we got another 6 years almost before the next one starts. We don't have to start preparing for 5 years. So we got a lot of time to research it, got a lot of time to talk about it. We can start a lot of discussions inside this Facebook site. You can ask me any questions. I'm going to be making more videos on it. I'm going to kind of back off on that for a while and kind of ramp up on it as the time is getting closer. Mitch and I are going to write a book on it. Keeping the Shemitah, city mouse, country mouse. Obviously he's the city mouse, I'm the country mouse. So we're going to talk about that, what it was for him and how he did it for people who are living in town who don't have a garden but can afford to buy the food, and how he bought another deep freezer and how he put everything up, and how those of us who are out here in the country with more time than money, how we're able to grow our stuff and put it up. And then we traded back and forth. You know, he only lives 20 minutes from here, and it was nice that him and his wife could trade with me and my wife. And you know, not a lot, but a little bit. And, you know, they said, oh, you need a little bit more of that. And yeah, we stocked up too much of this, you know, and he stocked up way more sugar. He comes over here with a 5-gallon bucket full of granulated sugar, and we gave him different things, and it really worked out very well. What else do I really want to talk about? This video is probably long enough anyway. But let me just say one more time, it was such a blessing to keep it. It really was. And it's a commandment. It's not optional. We all have to do it. You know, if we expect to inherit the promised land, like I said in the other video, they got kicked out of there for not letting the land rest. People think you're going to be allowed back in when you're not even practicing. You're not having a holy convocation. You're not having a set-apart rehearsal to tell the Father, yes, I will be able to let your land rest that you want to move me into. Hopefully, when you have shown me grace and mercy at the end of time, and let me come into your kingdom. I am practicing to do what you said now. And that's what's important. So yes, it does seem daunting. It does seem a little bit overwhelming. But the more you talk about it, the more you get used to it. It's not bad. And you can start preparing for it. You can start putting some of this stuff up. You know, start dehydrating now. Get a dehydrator and practice with it. You know, do some pear slices. Do some green peppers, do some apples, do some oranges. You know, go to the store and get some mandarin oranges. Let me tell you about mandarin oranges really quick. A tip about this, and I'm going to put this in the book too. You have to peel them. Don't slice them with the peels on there. And the mandarins peel real easy. Just peel that all off. You get it in one big chunk. Slice them up, you know, probably 1/4 inch thick. Lay them out on the dehydrator and dehydrate them overnight. And these things, let me show you. These things here, probably gonna make a mess on the counter. You can probably hear this. I'll put it by my, that's the orange, right by my mic. It's crunchy. It's like, they're like little orange cookies. I'm telling you, they're killer. So, anyway. Right near the end of this, I want to show a couple of graphics really quick. Let me put a graphic up here about rehydrated food. The jar on the left is some of the onions and squash and different things we put on there, and the jar on the right is after it's been rehydrated. You can see how much it is puffed up, and it'll go up even more after you cook it. But isn't that neat? Look at how much, and that's the same amount. It's just the jar on the left is with just dry coming right out of these little jars, and the jar on the left after it's been rehydrated. The next graphic I'm going to put up here is a pizza we made. This was with the cheese we could get. This is with the tomatoes and the green peppers and the different things, and my wife made her bread for the dough, and wow, was that good. So yeah, we were eating very, very well in the Shemitah. We did not lack. for anything, I guarantee you. It was a lot of fun, and that's about all I have to really say on the Shemitah tonight. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Be blessed. Have a great Shabbat.